4 to Madness Audiobook, written and recorded by David Wright. I am a persona. This is hard to explain to someone who is not a persona, but I will try because I am teacher. Being a persona is like being an incomplete person. I have 10 fingers and toes, but in my mind there is something missing. To use a metaphor from my century, my world, all the hardware is in place, but the software is different, more refined, without paradox or ambiguity. This is how I found myself when I awoke one morning naked in the jungle of an unknown world. You came by way of the river? It was less of a question than a statement. There was no other way to the city unless he had a working boat, and nothing worked on this planet, at least no machinery. The physics didn't allow it. The man nodded and tossed his half-finished meat into the fire. His manner was offhand, withdrawn and restless. He was like no leader I had ever met in the days when I walked the earth with mortals. He told us that his name was Alexander Rickles, and that he had been the chairman of the board for some large multinational corporation that I'd never heard of, or could no longer remember. It doesn't matter now anyways. Whatever was Alexander Rickles had been boiled down to leader, or at least so it seemed. Did you see any signs of others? Markings, structures, smoke in the distance? Nothing. But the treehouse. You must have seen the maker's treehouse. It was built next to the river, high up on the canyon. Fantastic view of the Greenlands. What? Yes, I saw it. Leader stood up. He was medium height. We all were. Look, this place is not going to be any good for sleeping. The wind off the water blows right in here. We'll freeze by morning. He seemed agitated. Maybe he was leader. His voice was loud and threatening. But then, he didn't know anything about the wind. The wind blows out to sea at night. We've been sleeping here for several months now, and it's a lovely spot at night. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I did not fear him, despite his loud voice. I did not know why. I finished my bird leg, wrapped it in a broadleaf, and stood up. Just the same, maybe it's time to move on. Sung? I called into the other area. I can't say room because the building was incomplete. They all were, like movie sets, realistic to the last detail on the outside, but inside, bare girders and air ducts. It was like the aliens wanted to reconstruct a city for us to live in, but all they had to go on was pictures from far away. They knew the whats and wheres, but nothing about the whys or hows. I presumed that's why we were incomplete, just personas of our former selves. Mr. Sung, what do you think? Should we move on? Mr. Sung walked into the fire area with a wooden pot full of rainwater. He had constructed a rain catcher and makeshift toilet on the balcony. It was nothing like the towering skyscrapers and luxury hotels he'd built in Japan, but it was effective and took days to construct without the help of modern tools. This was only one of his many projects in the last few months in the city. I knew he didn't want to leave them, but he nodded reluctantly. I met Mr. Sung 430 days ago. He was living in his treehouse next to the river. It wasn't until then that I began recording the days. Before then, there had been no reason to. No seasons, no hope of rescue. I traveled from place to place, making signs on the trees and caves for others to follow. North. What? We could head north. I pointed out the windowless window. There are many beautiful buildings in that direction. Maybe there are supplies. Rickles' eyes widened. No, there's nothing that way. You've been there? Rickles shook his head. It just doesn't look good. We'll go south. Mr. Sung was looking at me puzzled. We entered the city from the north 3 months ago. We already knew what was there. A dead woman, her body so badly mutilated that only an animal could have been responsible. Or so we thought until we saw the words of anger and madness in blood smeared across her work in clay and paint. I don't know her name, but she was artist. Now she was lost. It's settled then. Rickles stood up. Tomorrow morning at dawn we'll head south. Now I think we should put out this fire and go to sleep. We have a big day ahead of us. We waited until Rickles was in a deep sleep before lighting the fires. It was a 3-story building made of wood and burned well. Mr. Sung was maker and knew how to make it burn. If Rickles did wake up before he choked on the smoke or burned in the flames, he would have found that his legs and arms were tied to the floor. It had taken a lot of reasoning to convince Maker of this plan. He knew nothing of lying and killing. He had to be taught. They all did. I could see that when the scream started, Maker was beginning to doubt. But it was only when he saw the door closing on him did he see the truth, and so did I. This was the final lesson. I remember a woman in the forest. I'd followed her signs to the mouth of her cave, my hands still bloody. She clothed me, fed me, gave me shelter and comfort. She taught me about the world, about compassion and love, for she was teacher. We talked for days until I became her and left her body in the forest to be torn by animals. I feel the awful loneliness now, crushing me. I probably won't last long without the others, but it really doesn't matter. I know who I am. I am the serpent in the garden. I am death. I am madness. Perhaps when I am gone, the aliens will remake us, and we 4 can play again. The end. Thanks for listening to 4 to Madness by David Wright. Don't forget to like and subscribe.